In this video, we're going to talk about 2 popular strategies for pricing wedding invitations. Hi, I'm Laney. I've been a designer for over a decade now, and I've taught tens of thousands of wedding invitation designers. So I love chatting about pricing. It's one of my favorite things to talk about. I want you to make tons of money and absolutely charge your worth with no complaints, no stutters, and absolutely no discounts. I like to call them top down and bottom up. So let's start with bottom up. This is probably what you think of when you think of pricing. We're basically going to add up the cost of your goods, the cost of your time, etc. We're going to add some margins on it, and that's how we calculate our pricing. A very popular formula that a lot of people use is design fee plus materials times 3. So if you buy an invitation for $1, you're going to charge $3 to your client, and then you're going to add up all of the time it takes you to design, do the admin work, assembly for this suite, and you're going to put that in a design fee. As an example, mine is currently $1,500, which is not even really that high in the industry. So $1,500 plus the cost of goods times 3. What's great about this particular method is it always ensures you have good profit margins. So your profit margins are about 66% on all of the goods that you buy. And profit margins cover all of your overhead, they cover your taxes, they cover anything that you're not directly billing. So like your marketing time, your computer costs, all of that kind of thing is covered in your profit margins. Not every business needs exactly 66% profit margins, but it's a pretty healthy option. If you've ever seen Shark Tank, you might see a healthy profit margin of like 10% overall, and that's net, so it includes a lot of other things as well. But in general, that's a fairly good calculation, and that 66% will give you enough to run your business. The design fee, on the other hand, accounts for your time. That's kind of your direct payment for all of the investment of your time. The profit margins on the expenses are covering all of your overhead. So it's a very easy calculation to do, especially when you don't have a lot of experience in this industry. However, pricing by time is not always an amazing option, and we're kind of making up this profit margin, which of course you can change this calculation a little bit, multiply by 2, by 4, whatever you need to do for your business. So that's going to come with time, but this is a decent place to start. It's very simple to do. It kind of relies on people buying more expensive things for you to make more money. So you kind of have an incentive to get people to book more expensive things, because then you're going to get higher profits on that. And it's harder to predict exactly how much you're going to make in a year because you don't know how much everyone is going to spend. You do know what that design fee on every job is going to be, but you don't know what that profit number is going to look like, even though you do know what the profit margin looks like. So this is bottom up. You take all the costs of everything and you add them up to come up with the price. Then we have what's called top down, or what I call top down, which is where you kind of do the opposite. You start with how much money you want to make, and then you divide it out by the number of jobs. So say you want to make $100,000 in profit and you are going to book 20 jobs this year. Then you know on each job you need to make $5,000 profit. Most commonly for wedding invitation design, you would put that as your design fee or setup fee, or however you want to call it. I would call it a design fee personally. So you'd have a $5,000 design fee, and then your expenses, you're not necessarily going to mark them up that 3 times number because you're not relying on profit margin from that. You still want to round them up a little bit because like credit card fees, taxes, extras, all of those things need to be accounted for, but you can pretty much charge for materials and production almost exactly what they charge, with just a little bit of an addition there. What's great about this method is it's really easy to predict how much you're going to make. You know exactly, if I get 20 jobs, I'm going to make $5,000 each, $100,000 total. If I take on one additional job, I'll make one additional $5,000. If I take on one fewer job, I'll make $5,000 less. So it's very easy to predict how much you're going to make and to manage your workload based on that. It's also nice because it doesn't rely on people buying more expensive things. So if someone wants the most simple wedding invitation design, you're still going to make that $5,000, so it doesn't matter. What can be challenging about this is that you need to be able to book 20 jobs at the $5,000 each. So that can be harder when you're first starting out. You're not really able to predict if you can book that at that rate. Another thing is that people who buy more expensive things are technically getting a better deal, and people who buy cheaper things are technically getting a worse deal and could maybe get a better deal by going with someone who's doing that bottom up pricing. This is not necessarily your problem or your concern, as long as you are confident that you can book these jobs out, then it's often a really nice, simple way of pricing. Another thing about this method is your profit margins are variable. So you charge $5,000 and then the production costs are, say, $1,000. In that case, your profit is $5,000 out of $6,000. But if someone books $10,000 worth of production, then your profit is $5,000 out of $15,000. So it's a much lower profit margin. I will say, however, that when you're working for yourself, if you're not looking to take on investors or debt to a very large extreme, then profit margin is not something that truly matters that much, as long as the amount of profit that you need is sufficient. So as an example, two different business owners could each make $100,000 in a year, but one could have a 10% profit margin and one could have a 90% profit margin. Either way, they both took home $100,000 at the end of the day. So while Shark Tank might be more willing to invest in the person with the 90% profit margin, it kind of doesn't matter at the end of the day. If you're not looking for Shark Tank investors, then you're still making the same amount of profit either way. There's so much more that goes into pricing, such as how to handle discounts, how to present your invoices so that they speak clearly to the client, how to set your hourly rate, all of those things we're going to go into in our pricing classes in our membership, which is called Stationery School. I'm going to link it in the description. There's over 100 classes just for wedding invitation designers. Everyone who takes my pricing classes raises their prices by like hundreds of dollars. So I think it'll be worth it to check those out and see those numbers in action. Most likely there's a lot of things in your pricing as a wedding invitation designer that you're not taking into account or not covering as much as you should. Things like adding extras and making sure the client pays for them, shipping costs, taxes, just all those little things that you're probably not accounting for correctly that you might want to take a look at. Let me know which strategy you're going to try and what questions you have about pricing wedding invitations in the comments.